Have you ever ridden the roller coaster of sales? And I ask this question as someone who actually hates riding roller coasters. I'm 6'3". I hate fitting into this tiny little machine that's flinging me around, giving me headaches. But I'm not talking about the traditional roller coaster today. I'm talking about the roller coaster of sales. And that's, of course, the typical process where you need some sales. So you do a bunch of activities, you do a bunch of prospecting. Of course, your pipeline balloons up, and then you close those deals, and then you're spending so much time closing those deals and onboarding customers that you forget to keep prospecting and forget to keep those activities that got you the pipeline in the first place. So you have all the sales coming in, and all of a sudden you have no sales coming in, and all of a sudden you're riding that roller coaster back up. So this is a very common thing I hear when talking to salespeople and entrepreneurs. And today we're going to talk about 3 ways to get yourself off the roller coaster and have a more sustainable sales cycle. If you like today's video, be sure to like it, smash that subscribe button so you don't miss future content. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. We personally respond to them and we love talking to you. So like I said in the intro, this is a very common thing I see in businesses because sales takes a lot of effort. Again, there's a prospecting side of things, networking, and then hopefully generating some leads from those. And then you're doing discovery meetings, proposals, contract negotiations, and once you actually make the sale, then you're onboarding the customer and going that direction. So it's a lot of activities and a lot of different types of activities. So the natural thing for us to do is to kind of focus on one area at a time. We know we need more sales, so we go out and do more top of funnel activities. Or we're really busy and we know we need to close these 3 to 5 deals. They're really important for us to meet our goals. So we spend all this time focusing on closing existing deals in our pipeline. And inevitably what ends up happening is that you neglect one over top of the other, which again leads to this roller coaster of sales where all of a sudden you have no sales. So you're spending all your time panicking to fill your funnel up. 2, you have tons of sales coming in. And maybe it's not even just the fact that you're focused on closing deals, but sometimes when you're at that top of the roller coaster and you're feeling good, you kind of say, hey, I can coast a little bit. I can take the foot off the gas a little bit when it comes to prospecting because look how big my pipeline is. Not realizing that if you are in a business that has a 6 or 9 or 12-month sales cycle, that means that if you're not building things right now, that's going to affect your pipeline down the road. So again, this creates this roller coaster of sales, which is incredibly common, and I see it all the time. But today I want to break down 3 simple ways that you can smooth out that roller coaster, hopefully at a higher level, right? You can smooth out that roller coaster so you have a continual pipeline both with leads coming in as well as deals closing. So tip number 1 is to track your activities, which of course starts with knowing what your activities are. So look at your sales process and look at the activities that lead you to generating pipeline. So common things I see here are number of networking events attended, number of meetings you have, number of different marketing campaigns you send out, or might even be something as simple as number of contacts added into your CRM. These are all different types of metrics that I've tracked with myself and my sales teams over the years to help get a good sense or pulse on very top of funnel activities that ultimately lead to more pipeline. The important thing here is to look at historical data to see what kind of activities in the past have led to it. And if you can get an idea of number of meetings or number of contacts that lead to actual deals, if you can't find that information, just start tracking it today so that going forward, you can look at the correlation between those activities and the actual pipeline growth you have. Once you know what activities you want to track, start to track them on a weekly basis. Yes, I said weekly, not a monthly or a quarterly basis where all of a sudden it's been too long and you're retroactively pulling data from a CRM or some sort of automated source. And that's when you realize, oops, I messed up and I've not been doing my activities. So every single week, look at your activities. I recommend having something like a really simple spreadsheet. Use a Google Sheet or a Microsoft Excel document. If you're on a team, it's going to track these things as a team and actually manually go back and add this information. If you can pull the information from your CRM and it's automated somewhere and you can have some sort of dashboard that's fancy, I still recommend manually pulling the data, bringing it into that spreadsheet so that you personally know that you are accountable for your numbers and you actually know what they are. Just like tracking calories works with dieting, tracking activities works with sales. Again, it keeps you accountable and makes sure that you're doing the right things that lead you to pipeline growth. And again, like dieting, sometimes the information is not what you want to see, but it's good to know where you're at so that you can improve, you can make changes, you can be effective, and you don't get surprised in the long run. Tip number 2 is to know your pipeline. So know how long it takes for your average deal to close. Know your close rate. Know your lead sources. Get really nitty gritty about your pipeline so you know all the metrics and you know how your pipeline works. Once you have this information and if you understand the system behind your pipeline, that allows you to make process improvements so that going forward, you can increase your total pipeline growth. It also allows you to spot issues earlier on. So kind of like knowing your activities, knowing your pipeline allows you to understand when things start to slip, like close rates start going lower or deals start going longer. All this stuff is valuable information so you can manage your pipeline better and ultimately close more profitable sales. One thing I do often with clients is a pipeline analysis where I dig deep into this information. Again, once you know it, you can actually set a target pipeline size. And this is super important. So if you know your close rate, you know how long it takes your deals to close, and you know your average deal size, you can say, okay, for this year, if I want to do $2 million in sales, I need $4 million in pipeline at any given time. Or I need, let's say you're trying to close $1 million in sales. Maybe you need to have $2 million of pipeline in any given time. So what this allows you to do is say, in any given moment, you can look at your CRM, look at your total pipeline size, the actual deals you have in the pipeline, and you'll know that you're on track for your ultimate sales goal. There's some fancy math behind this, but the main thing I want to reiterate is just know the basics of your pipeline. Get that information, track it, and over time you can dig deeper. But as long as you start that process of understanding it, it takes away some of that fear of, do I have enough deals in the pipeline? Are they coming from the right sources? Am I going to be okay? If you know your pipeline, you'll know your actual results. And finally, tip number 3 is an oldie but a goodie, and that is to time block. Put time on your calendar every single week for prospecting and sales activities. And actually, depending on your role, it might be more often, right? If you are only a seller, you're only a salesperson, then almost every day you should have time blocked for prospecting. But I think generally speaking, twice a week, 3 times a week, have dedicated time to prospecting, networking, just following up with good leads you might have. They might not have an active deal with you, but people you are intentionally nurturing. All of that needs to be done in some sort of dedicated time. If you don't have a time block for it, what's probably going to happen is you'll say, oh, I'll do it next week. And then next week becomes next week, which becomes next week. And all of a sudden, those deals aren't converting. Your pipeline's slowing down and you're scrambling and the roller coaster is getting very scary. So find out when you work best. Find out when you are most likely to be excited to do prospecting, excited to do different follow-up activity, and actually time block for it. Because what I find too is if you actually time block for it, you can kind of mentally prepare yourself for the activities. You can go out and get a fancy coffee. You could be excited about it. All of a sudden, your emails sound happier and you're actually more enthusiastic and more energized with your prospecting activities because you've kind of built this time block ritual around developing your business. So again, I recommend twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, definitely at least once a week if you're running your own business, but more than that probably too. Time block the time out. If things come up, you can always shift them, but you are manually shifting it. You're saying, I was going to spend Tuesday afternoon doing my prospecting. I'm going to move that to Wednesday. So it's actually on your calendar. And you'll be surprised when you actually dedicate the time to it, how often it actually gets done. Okay, so those are my 3 tips for getting off the sales roller coaster. Again, it's tracking your activities, knowing your pipeline, and doing time blocking for your actual sales activities and your prospecting. Having worked with many clients on their sales and marketing strategies, as well as leading sales teams of my own, I can tell you if you actually do these 3 things, you will smooth out that roller coaster, you will have more consistent pipeline growth, and best of all, you'll sleep better at night.